Assalamu alaikum. Um, this is Mami Rouge, and today's lecture is in continuation with our previous lectures on the topic parts of speech, and we were focusing on verbs. In the last lecture, we studied the 4 types of verbs, which were stative, action, linking, and helping. Today, we're going to move on to another category of verbs. But before that, even though none of you guys asked me this question, I was I was sending the whiteboard to some of you, the picture of the whiteboard, and it occurred to me that there's one more point that I should probably explain, because even though it's not occurring to you right now, it's going to occur to you sooner or later, and then you'll be confused. So I just want to make it clear beforehand. So let me just do that. Now, I'm sure that you guys understood the difference between action and stative verbs and helping and linking verbs. So what about the difference between linking and stative verbs? Okay, so I wrote a sentence. I don't remember it correctly, but it was something like, I looked at the mountains. They looked amazing, right? Amazing, sorry. So I told you guys that looked in the first sentence is an action verb, and looked in the second sentence is a stative verb, right? You must remember that. It was something like this, right? So looked here is the action verb, and looked here is a stative verb. However, okay, the part that makes it, the part that I've probably didn't mention last time, forgot to mention last time, was that I also, when I explained the linking verbs, I told you that linking verbs, they link the subject and its complement. Okay, so even if I didn't use the word complement because I don't want to confuse you, I may have said its quality, its describer, whatever. Okay, something like that. I must have used a word, either of these two words, quality or describer. Okay, so that is what I told you guys about the linking verbs. Okay, they link subject and its quality. Okay, but if you look at this sentence, they looked amazing. Now, they is the subject, they are the mountains, and looked is linking it to its quality. The mountains were amazing. Okay, amazing is the quality that the mountains had. So, in this case, it is a stative verb, but it is also a linking verb. If you answer with either of these, your answer will be considered correct. Okay, if they give you a sentence like this, and it is having an adjective at the end that is describing the subject, and you call it a linking verb, that is completely fine. Okay, but it is not fine in all the cases. For example, we did another example that was, the house has 4 rooms, right? Now, 4 rooms is not an adjective. Okay, 4 rooms is not a quality. 4 rooms is just a random thing. Okay, so in this case, it is a stative verb, and it's a stative verb only. However, if the sentence was, the house is 4-roomed, right? Then it would be a linking verb, because 4-roomed is, a describer, a quality. It is a one word that is describing what the house is like. Okay, so not all linking verbs are stative, and not all stative verbs are linking, but you should know that they must be uh, uh, they must be linking the subject to a quality, only then they'll be linking. Okay, but either way, just know what the verbs actually are, and you'll be fine. Okay, you'll be able to know which verb to go with, which is the right answer. Okay, now let us move on to the topic that we have for today, which is the types of verbs. Okay, so types of verbs is the topic that we have to go over today. Instead of creating I guess I'll just open the whiteboard that is already made instead of creating a new one because it's going to save time. So the topic that we have today is transitive and intransitive verbs. Now, transitive verbs and intransitive verbs, before doing them, first thing that we need to do is to understand the meaning of the word transit. Okay, so the word transit is the pathway or the shift or the transfer between two things. Okay, so a verb, when it is transiting something, so it means that it is shifting itself onto something, it is projecting itself onto something. Okay, so the thing on which the verb acts, as you guys already know, is the object. Okay, the thing on which a verb acts, right, is the object. This is verb, and verb always acts on the object. Eats is the verb, and it is acting on the object apples, right? Okay, so those of you who do not know or do not remember, uh, in English, the simple sentence structure that we have is S plus V plus O. Okay, SVO is the sentence structure in English. Okay, Urdu mein it's different. We say Sara ne seb khaya. Okay, so it's S plus object plus subject. Sorry, verb. ठीक है, verb से end पे आता है उर्दू में. ठीक है, सारा ने सेब खाया. सारा सबसे पहले आई, सेब बाद में, ऑब्जेक्ट बाद में, और वर्ब सबसे एंड पे खाया. इंग्लिश में इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. इन उर्दू इट्स एसओवी. इन इंग्लिश इट्स एसवीओ. सब्जेक्ट देन वर्ब देन ऑब्जेक्ट. ठीक है, सो सारा ईट्स एप्पल्स, एसवीओ. ठीक है, सो इस इन दिस सेंटेंस the verb eats is being transited onto apples. So this is a transitive sentence. Okay, this eats over here is a transitive verb. Now, we have some conditions over here, some examples over here in which the verbs are intransitive. So first example is Sara eats. Sara eats is a complete sentence. Okay? If somebody asks you, what does Sara do at 5 p.m.? Sara eats. वो खाना खाती है. It's a complete sentence. Okay? However, it has no object. Eat is not being shifted onto anything. So it is not transitive. Okay? Second example that we have is Sarah eats at the restaurant. Okay? But if you, now children would say that restaurant is the object in the sentence. It's not. Okay? But those of you who have the concept of direct and indirect objects, so for you, the definition that you should remember for intransitive verbs, for transitive verbs, basically is transitive verbs have a direct object. Intransitive verbs lack a direct object. Okay, for those of you who do not know what direct and indirect objects are, let me explain it in a while. Okay, you do not necessarily need to know the concept to understand transitive and intransitive verbs, but I am going to explain it because I have mentioned this. So I don't want anyone to keep thinking, oh, maybe I would have understood it better if I had known this because I know this happens. So I'm going to touch that concept as well. Okay, ji. Sarah eats at the restaurant. So eats is the action, but is it being transferred onto restaurant? Is Sarah eating the restaurant? No, she's not. She is eating at the restaurant. If it would have been Sarah eats macaroni at the restaurant, then macaroni would have been your uh, uh, direct object. Okay, so eats would have been transferred onto macaroni. Macaroni के ऊपर eats का action perform हो रहा है, right? But over here, there is no direct object. The next one, Sarah eats with Harim. Is Sarah eating Harim? No, we do not know eat का action किस चीज पे transfer हुआ. We have no idea what she ate. So again, this is not transitive. This verb again is not transitive. These three are intransitive verbs. Another example that we should probably do is Sarah eats a lot, right? Or maybe we can do another one for those of you who do not know types of adverbs. Sarah eats quickly. Okay, in both these cases, a lot is an adverb. ठीक है, which type of adverb it is, etc., that we are going to do later on. ठीक है, next lecture is adverbs. We have to complete verbs first. Okay, so Sarah eats a lot. Sarah eats quickly. Both the cases, we do not know what does she eat. Okay, what is exactly is it that she's eating? We do not know. So again, these verbs also are intransitive, right? So, uh, let me just quickly explain what direct and indirect objects are. Direct object is the object that is directly being acted upon. Indirect object is the object. Direct object receives the action. Indirect object relates to the subject, or actually just do not define indirect object because it has so many definitions. It's only going to confuse you. I'm going to make a separate video on it, on subject, verb, and object. Then I'm going to explain it, because if we delve into that right now, that's going to make our lecture very complicated. So let's not delve into that. You only need to remember that direct object is the object that receives the action. Now, in our example 2 and 3, again, come back to those examples, and I'm going to explain this particular point. I should keep maroon. Okay. No, not maroon. Blue would do. Okay, ji. So over here, restaurant is an indirect object. Okay, it is not something that is actually receiving the action. Harim is an indirect object. Okay, it is not receiving the actual action. ठीक है, अगर यहाँ पे macaroni लिखा होता है, यहाँ पे apples लिखा हुआ है. Apples is a direct object because it is receiving the action. ठीक है, eat is being performed on apples, right? So that's it. You do not need to define indirect object because that is only going to confuse you. Now, this part is a very important part, right? So, it is very important to know that this concept is important not only because you need to know the types of verbs, it is also important because it comes in handy when doing active and passive. Okay, how? Okay, you know that what active and passive are. We have already done it. For those of you who haven't done it with me before, I'm going to record another lecture on it. But active and passive is basically in active voice, your sentence formation is SVO. Okay, so again, the same thing. Let us look at it in the same way. Okay, subject, verb, and object. That is your formation when you're doing the active voice. And this is the example. Sarah eats an apple. Okay, Sarah is the subject, eats is the verb, and an apple is the object, right? In the passive voice, however, your object becomes the subject and your subject goes in the place of the object. Okay? So, object plus helping verb plus main verb plus by plus subject. Okay? Now you have to remember that tenses are very important when doing active and passive. I'm going to record another lecture on active and passive too, that you guys can keep it, because I know that it is quite a confusing concept. So children do get confused while doing it. Anyway, so tenses are very important. ठीक है, so अब यहाँ पे हमारे पास s लगा हुआ था, so that means that it is present tense. So when changing it, we will make sure that our helping verb also shows present tense. ठीक है, because verb is always going to come in its third form. V3 आएगा हमेशा, whether it's present, whether it's past, it will always be converted into the third form. ठीक है, so an apple is eaten by Sarah. क्योंकि हमने बोला Sarah eats an apple, present tense, so is eaten. If it was Sarah ate an apple, तो ये हो जाता an apple was eaten. Eaten will not change. Eaten will remain the same no matter what the tense is. Only the helping verb is going to change. ठीक है? Okay जी. An apple is eaten by Sarah, right? we have converted it into intransitive one. However, there are cases where this does not, when a sentence cannot be turned into passive voice. When is that? Okay, let us go to a clean whiteboard and then I'm going to explain it. Okay, let me clean this. Okay, so when is it that passive voice cannot be, yeah, let me give the heading active and passive voice. There is no passive for intransitive verbs. There is no passive for intransitive verbs. ठीक है, कोई passive नहीं होता intransitive verbs का. Right? So if we go over the same examples that we have done before, Sara eats. कैसे इसका passive voice बनेगा? Object को subject की position पे we cannot bring. We cannot do it. ठीक है, because there is no object. ठीक है, next one. Sara eats quickly. There is no object again. Adverb है. We are telling how she eats, but we are not saying what she eats. So there is no passive for this. Sara eats at the restaurant. Okay, so again, no passive because we cannot say at the restaurant is eaten by Sara, because at the restaurant is not eaten by Sara. At the restaurant is just the place where she eats. Okay, so Sara eats with Harim. Again, no passive for this sentence as well. Okay, because again, it does not have a direct object. So the rule is to spot an intransitive verb. One, it will have no direct object. Two, it will have an adverb after verb. Okay, instead of having an object after verb, it will have an adverb after verb. Third, it will have a preposition after verb. Sometimes it will have a preposition after verb, right? So if you look at the last two examples that we did, at the restaurant, with Harim. These are prepositions. Prepositions क्या होती हैं? They show time and place. ठीक है? So at the restaurant and with Harim. ठीक है? These are both prepositions, at and with. So this will not have passive. This is not transitive. This will not have passive. This is not transitive. This will not have passive. This is not transitive, and the same with this one. ठीक है? But in certain cases, I have written this example on the previous board as well. So let me just go to the same board again. Okay, you have to remember these to spot an intransitive verb. However, there are cases when your intransitive verb can also have a passive voice. For example, the big old train drove through the massive unconstructed tunnel. Okay, so now children are going to see this sentence. They're going to remember, ma'am ने कहा था कि either it will not, either after verb there will be no object, or there will be an adverb, or there will be a preposition. Now through is a preposition. Okay, so it is, this looks like a D. Through is a preposition, so it is intransitive. This is wrong. Okay, you have to actually थोड़ा सा अपना दिमाग भी इस्तेमाल करें. That rule is correct. There is nothing wrong with that rule. You can Google it. Okay, you can ask ChatGPT. You can go to YouTube and watch videos on it. The rules that I have told you, the three rules, adverb होगा या कुछ भी नहीं होगा या preposition होगा, ये करेक्ट है. ऑल थ्री रूल्स आर करेक्ट. आपको शायद कहीं पे ये लिखा हुआ मिल जाए कि prepositional फ्रेज होगी, सिर्फ preposition नहीं होगा, तो उसका एक ही मतलब है. वो भी मैं क्लियर कर देती हूँ कि prepositional फ्रेज का बेसिकली व्हाट डज फ्रेज मीन. द वर्ड फ्रेज मीन्स अ ग्रुप ऑफ वर्ड्स. ठीक है? So a group of words that starts with a preposition is called a prepositional phrase. So at the restaurant, these three words together is a prepositional phrase. With Harim, these two words together, it's a prepositional phrase. ठीक है? So I just said कि preposition होगा to keep it simple. ठीक है? So uh, at and with are prepositions. So either way, whether you say it will have a preposition after it, it's correct. If you say that it will have a prepositional phrase after it, it's correct. However, there are cases जब prepositional phrase होता है, जैसे through the massive tunnel over here. Sorry, what am I doing? Okay. जैसे कि through the massive tunnel over here, it's a prepositional phrase because through is a preposition. Okay, but this sentence is still going to have a passive voice, ठीक है? Which is the massive tunnel was driven through by the big old train. ठीक है? So even though it was containing an intransitive verb, it still does have a passive voice. ठीक है? So ज़्यादातर that case applies, but there are cases when that case does not apply. ठीक है? So in this video we have covered a lot many things. We have talked briefly about direct and indirect objects. Direct object वो होता है जिसके ऊपर directly action perform किया जाए. Indirect object ज़्यादातर वो होता है जिसको डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट मिल जाता है, उसको एक्शन नहीं मिल रहा होता. बट आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू एक्सप्लेन दैट. Then we talked about this basic sentence structure, which is SVO. ठीक है? Then we talked about transitive and intransitive verbs. ठीक है? ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब्स के बारे में हमने क्या कहा कि या तो उनके बाद जैसे ये है हमारे पास के या तो उनके बाद कुछ भी नहीं होता. ठीक है? सारा ईट्स के बाद कुछ भी नहीं है. सारा ईट्स एट द रेस्टोरेंट, या उसके बाद प्रेपोजिशनल फ्रेज होता है. और या तीसरी हमने एग्जाम्पल की थी कि उसके बाद क्या होता है, उसके बाद एडवर्ब होता है. वो इन्होंने यहाँ से ख़त्म कर दिया, सो आई एम गोइंग टू राइट इट अगेन. सारा ईट्स क्विकली. ठीक है? सो ऑल ऑफ दीज दे आर इंट्रांजिटिव वर्ब्स. ठीक है? मगर जब सेंटेंस के बाद सॉरी वर्ब के बाद एक ऑब्जेक्ट आ रहा हो, जैसे फर्स्ट एग्जाम्पल ये जो हमने की, इसके अंदर वी हैव एप्पल्स आफ्टर eats. So this over here is a transitive verb. ठीक है? Then we linked this concept with active and passive, and we talked about the fact that intransitive verbs do not have a passive voice. ठीक है? उनका कोई passive नहीं होता. Let's shift to the other whiteboard and revise that as well. ठीक है? There is no passive for intransitive verbs. ठीक है? So या उनके बाद कोई डायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं होगा, या उनके बाद एडवर्ब होगा वर्ब के बाद, और या उसके बाद preposition या prepositional phrase होगी. ठीक है? So I hope that this concept is clear. If it's not, again you can ask me. ठीक है? And if you guys want, we can go over some बल्कि let us do it. Okay, I'm not going to ask you, I'm just going to do it. Let me screen share, and we can go over an example from the internet as well. ठीक है? There's some examples from the internet as well. Okay जी. This page is still loading. Why is it not opening? Okay, now it's opened. Right. Intransitive and transitive verbs. Transitive verbs need an object to complete their meaning. We liked the match. I closed the door. He caught the ball. She visited me at the school. Now again, you can see that it is she visited me at the school. If it would have been she, me नहीं होता, सिर्फ at school होता, तो it's a prepositional phrase, and it would have had no passive voice. Okay, ji. And intransitive verbs, we arrived in the afternoon in, again, prepositional phrase. She coughed strangely. Strangely, again, adverb. Your dog barks a lot, again, adverb. His father arrived last night. Last night, again, adverb of time. ठीक है, adverb of degree, adverb of manner. ठीक है, again, quickly is adverb of manner. I was sleeping. ठीक है, nothing after the verb. The game was not funny and nobody laughed. ठीक है, so again, not funny is the adverb and laughed के बाद there is nothing. ठीक है, so you can see that they do not have a direct object. Let us see if they have some. No, they don't. If they had some quiz for it, that would have been really good. Looking for more resources related to translator, check out our comprehensive list of worksheets and video games. Okay, so you can. It actually does have a quiz. Okay, so let's open it. Mountain climb quiz, I guess it's a game. So this is something that you guys can do on your own. Okay, so it's eslkidsworld.com. Let me just copy this and I'm going to send it to you, right? Okay, ji, with that, I am going to just end the class now. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. Allah Hafiz.